Listen, I don't know if I'm going to sound like the person that's going to inspire you. I don't know if I'm going to sound like the person that's going to be the encourager. I don't know if I'm going to sound like the person that's the commander. But I remember watching a TV episode on the Twilight Zone. It was about a man who was very, very successful, but as a child, he used to love carousels, he used to love banjos. He decided, because he was overworked in his day and his time, to drive the car, but he had happened to pass this town and caught a flat tire. So there was this flat fixed place he pulled into. It happened to be right up the road. And the guy said it's going to take a little while before he's able to get to his car. So he decided to go into like a little coffee shop. And he looked up the mountain and said, "Hey, man, that town over there, is that within walking distance?" The guy was like, "Yeah, it's within walking distance." He said, "All right, cool." He proceeded to walk up there, but by the time he got up there, he didn't realize that he's about to walk into a time zone he used to live in. So he saw this little lady over there at the tree, talking to her son to get down out the tree. He went to go help the kid out the tree, and then he began to have a conversation with the lady. The lady was like, "Hey, are you from around here?" He's like, "Well, I used to be from around here." And he began to tell his story. He says, to make a long story short, he says, "I used to go to the school right up the block. I used to live right up that block." He says, "I used to go over here to this little patio, and I used to write my name and carve my name." And he just paused, and he looked, and he noticed that there was a little boy carving his name in the little patio. And for some reason, he walked up to him, and he noticed that it was who he was when he was a young boy. And his name, by the way, was Martin. He says, "Well, Martin, your name is Martin?" He says, yes, sir. But every kid come and mark their name. I'm sorry, I didn't mean it." And the boy took off. He took off. So the rest of the episode, he found himself chasing after him. Happened so he decided to go by the house that he used to live in. His mom and his dad were actually there. But they didn't know who he was because he was his older self. The only person that they knew, they can concur with, is little Martin. So he knocks on the door. He says, "Hey, Mom, Dad, do you not remember me? I'm Martin." So his father's like, "You must be some weirdo," and closed the screen door and then closed the regular door. Then he banged on the door once again and said, "Look, Mom, it's me." And then he began to tell his mom, "Remember when I did this? Remember when I did that? Remember when I did that?" They couldn't disagree with him because he was saying everything that was right, but they just couldn't apprehend who he was as an older young man, because by the time he was older, they had already died. However, they closed the door on him, and his father hit him, and right then and there just stopped him in his tracks. He sat on the porch. Little to his knowledge, he remembered he loved carousels. And so he ran over to the park, which is where his former self used to be. And when he left the porch, he didn't realize he left his wallet on the porch. So he saw little Martin on the carousel. He began to chase Martin and chase him. He says, Martin, wait, no, slow down." And then Martin jumped off the carousel and he hurt his leg. And guess what? At the same time he hurt his leg, he felt the pain because he was him. And now all of a sudden, like, the episode had like a spotlight on little Martin, and they blocked everybody else out, and they took little Martin away, and he just sat there. And he was like, "Look, man, all I wanted to ever tell you is you're going to turn out good. You're going to be successful. You're going to be great. You're going to be awesome. Just keep working." All of a sudden, he got a tap on the shoulder. It was his father. Sat next to him and said, "I don't know, and I don't understand how this is happening, but you left your wallet on the porch, and I looked at your wallet, and I looked at your ID for sure. You're 25 years ahead of us." He says, "And you know all of what's going to take place, don't you?" He says, "Yeah." He says, "But I want to tell you something." He says, "You got to leave here, Martin." And Martin says, "I sort of figured that out now." He says, "Because that young boy right there, you can't share this space with him. You can't share his summer. You had your summer already. You had your turn." He says, "You got to go back." He says, "You love carousels and banjos, don't you?" He says, "Yeah." He says, "Well, maybe where you're from, there are carousels and banjos." He says, "Maybe you're looking in all of the wrong places." He says, "But you can't share the space. You got to let him be." You got to go. It's because your time have already been up. He says, so stop chasing yourself, man. You got to go. And he went to go get his car and went back into the time zone he was actually from, and he left. The moral of the story was, this man kept chasing himself the whole episode. Let me ask you a question. Don't you think it's time for you to move on? Because at the end of the day, could I tell you something? The only reason why you can't walk into your future is because you keep thinking about old thought files from the past and the remember when and remember when. And it's okay to remember when. But while you're remembering, keep it moving and walk into your future and create new thought files, create new memories, create new data for yourself. There's a whole world, and I don't care how old you are. I don't care how young you are. If you have friends that you can only talk about what you used to have, and you can't talk about where you all are going, then those are used to be friends. And I don't know if I'm going to sound like the inspirer, if I'm going to sound like the encourager, if I'm going to sound like the commander. All I know is that it's time for you to move on. You know, it's time for you to move on. I need you to go into your RRP mode. Remove, replace, and practice the new stuff. You know, some people have lost loved ones, and I'm sure you have. I remember losing my mom. I remember losing my dad. Can I tell you what it done to me? At first, it crushed me. At first, I thought it was going to take my whole life, put it in the park, and throw the keys in the sea. But then I realized something. I grew. I would have never known I was able to do the things that I'm able to do had they still been here, because I would have still been shielded. I'm not trying to make light of anybody who's gone. I need to stop living in the past because I can't move on. And that's the reason why you have the voices that keep talking to you. You know what they're telling you? They're telling you only what you've already encountered. The voice that you hear can't tell you nothing about the future, but it can try to discourage you. How long is that going to last? It lasts, and it takes as long as you allow for it to speak to you. Sometimes what we have to do is ignore the doubt and say, yo, I'm about to plan for what I'm about to do tomorrow. Because tomorrow, for me, because I said so, looks better. I might not know all of what it is, but I can plan, because maybe the only reason why you can't move on is because you're looking for what you're looking for in the wrong places. You're looking for it in the past. Move on. Listen, I understand. He hurt you. I know he did. You know? And the only thing that you want to live in is payback. She hurt you. She killed your psyche. You know? And it made you to believe you ain't worth nothing. Well, if you keep living in the past, and if you keep living in past thought files, and if you don't replace the thought files with something new and practice the new thing that's about to come, then you're going to always stay in hurt. You're going to always stay in disappointment. And then you know what's going to happen? You're going to start living in fear, because you're going to fear that's going to happen to you again. And the only thing you got to do is say it. I'm not living like this no more. They will not have any privy over my life anymore. They will not consume me anymore. You know what I'm saying? You got to name them and say, nah, it's not going to happen no more. Maybe a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, maybe 5 years ago, but not now, champ. Because I'm better than this, and my mind is better. My mind is clear because I'm creating new memory for myself. And the new you have to practice being the new you. You get what I'm saying? You got to practice being who you are now. And you got to walk into who you want to be. And you got to walk into it like as though you are that person until you become it completely. Stop living in the past. move on, and stop looking in all the wrong places. Tomorrow waiting for you. And you like, oh, I can't wait until. Can I tell you something? I can't wait until is waiting for you. And listen, if there's something that was said that resonated with you, if you feel that you're that person who's still broken because of the relationship, you're still broken because of the loss of a loved one, you're still broken because you still can't get over the decision that you made, you could either stay where you are and walk into your tomorrow with yesterday's stuff, or you can hop on a coaching call with me with a community that I've just created called Elevate Circle, with people who also used to have mental chaos that now realign their thoughts, gain their confidence so they can trust themselves again.